Hey guys, we're live on YouTube. It's Home Server Show. It's going to be episode number 282. I've got Mr. John Stutzman. He is in cozy at home in Illinois. Mr. Kevin Schoonover, he is in Las Vegas at McCarran Airport. He may be hit or miss coming in to talk to you today, but we're going to be talking about the HP Microserver, mostly about modifications, and we're going to be talking about a drive bracket that goes into the HP Gen 8 microserver, so that's what it's about. First and foremost, this is an audio podcast. If you found this on YouTube from a search term and you've seen it's an hour long, yes, it's an hour-long broadcast. It is for audio primarily. We're just recording for recording's sake on YouTube. So you may want to head over to homeservershow.com. There is a forums link there, and you will find these two gentlemen out there talking about the HP Microserver Gen 8, all of the older ones. I mean, you see I've got a N54L behind me. I mean, these guys are pros at all of those boxes, so please head over to homeservershow.com /forums. And don't forget, this is an audio podcast. You can subscribe to that audio podcast as well. So thank you for coming, joining, and we are going to start. Yeti Tech, I have a DS1515 Plus. Hey, I've got one of those too, somewhere down here. I've got a 1515 Yeti. We're going to get going here. This is the Home Server Show, episode number 282, recorded on April the 29th, 2015. Welcome back to Home Server Show. I'm your host, David McCabe, joined by some special friends of mine from the Home Server Show community, those forum masters, the microserver master, Mr. John Stutzman. How are you doing tonight, John?
Doing great, Dave. How you doing?
I am very well. You sound great. You look great. All that podcasting gear is coming in handy.
That's right. That's right. I've had some good mentors out there.
All right. Now, I wish I could say the same for Kevin Schoonover, but we caught him traveling. We booked this like 3 months ago. This date, we said, hey, we're going to talk this right here. Once in my life, I made a schedule, and we're sticking to it, and we caught you traveling. Kevin, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Oh, we got you. Now, you're at the airport in Vegas.
I'm at the airport in Vegas, and I'm not gambling. Well, I work in technology, so I guess I'm always gambling.
You're always gambling with something. Well, hey, while I have you just, like, sounding pretty good, tell me what you're doing out there.
So I was at a show called Interop, and it tends to be a networking show. Saw a lot of good technology today. Of course, they make an announcement right when I start talking, but a lot of software-defined networking products. A lot of the storage guys were there. And saw a couple of really neat things that I'll post up on the home server site. Last guy I talked to before I left is making, imagine a little bitty solid-state disk drive that has a SATA connector on it and plugs straight into a SATA port. So think on the Gen 8 where we've got that SATA port right on the motherboard and people run solid-state drives and things off that. This guy makes what looks like a USB thumb drive, but it has a SATA port on it, and it looks like an SSD. So it could have some really neat implications. Spent some good time in the Synology booth. A lot of good technology there. They're making a big push into small to medium business products, rack mount products. Had a great talk with the Passler guys. We've worked with them a couple of times on event monitoring. There's a couple of great posts out there about using their reporting tools. They knew who we were, and we're happy that people embrace their free product, and they've made their free product go up to 100 sensors now. So even for a small business, you can get by with their free system. So lots of good stuff. The Monoprice guys were showing their networking gear, and it was a fun day.
Now, tell me what the name of that the sensor product was again, so everybody can hear it.
It's Passler, P-A-E-S-S-L-E-R. I think on the website they tend to go by PRTG, and I'll get you a link to them in the show notes.
Okay, that's awesome to hear. It's awesome to hear the interop is still kind of kicking and going. So, okay, so I promise you that the audio for the rest of the show, guys. I know if you were on audio, you kind of heard a lot of airport behind Mr. Schoonover. So first of all, I appreciate Kevin for coming on. You know, usually you don't have to do this, but we are going to be talking about your device. Kevin Schoonover has got an invention for the Gen 8 microserver that you're going to want to see, you're going to want to hear. So hang with me. We're going to get to that, and we're going to, Mr. John Stutzman, he's like the master reviewer for all of these devices that Schoondoggy 1979 is his Twitter handle. John Stutzman goes by, you go by actually John Stutzman on Twitter, but you're Joe_Miner on the forums, which I know confuses everybody. Everybody calls you Joe every once in a while.
That's right. That's right. And it happens at the meetup that people will call me Joe, and then in the next sentence they'll call me John. So it's
right.
I'm used to it.
It's a Purdue thing, guys. It's a Purdue thing. Just look it up. We'll have to get a link someday.
Yeah.
So this is Home Server Show. You can follow the Home Server Show on Twitter at Home Server Show. You'll get posts about deals. You'll get posts about when blog posts go up. We definitely retweet all that good stuff. You can follow me at McCabe.io, MCCABIO. That's where you're going to get all of my rantings and ravings from all of my sites on the Geeks Network. Speaking of, we are a member of that fantastic network, thegeeksnetwork.com, and this episode is sponsored by Synology. Don't forget about Synology Beyond Cloud. I'm going to tell you about that here in a little bit. It's pre-configured Seagate NAS that is affordable, and you can play, collaborate, and achieve more with Synology Beyond Cloud. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. Chat is up and running. HomeServerShow.com/live. If you're watching on YouTube, you can chat with us live when we podcast. You need to follow Home Server Show on Twitter, or you need to follow McCabe.io on Twitter to find out when we podcast, but we are live right now at HomeServerShow.com/live. Come over there to the chat room, YouTube watchers, or Google Plus Hangout folks, and you can chat with us live and ask these guys questions. Okay. Now, I have no news, but there was a lot of news today from Build. So Microsoft has released or started their Build conference, which is their developer conference, and they've got all kinds of stuff coming out. But I'm going to kind of skip over that. I want to go to something which I think was like extreme news if you follow Microsoft as a company. There was an app that was released for Windows Phone, and it's called Pocket Casts. I know it's hard to see. It's kind of a glare. This is a Windows Phone. It's a Lumia icon. The app, I'm a podcaster. I'm a fan of podcasts. I listen a lot. And I've tried every app known to mankind on iOS, Android, Windows Phone. And the one that I prefer is called Pocket Casts. You can, I don't even know where to find it. I will put a link in the show notes to the app of Pocket. Let me write that down. Pocket Casts link. These guys have a killer app on Android and iOS, and they released it for Windows Phone. It's $3.99. If you listen to podcasts and you're using Windows Phone, you owe it to yourself to go purchase it. Just trust me on this. Purchase it now. As soon as I heard about it, I grabbed it. $3.99 Pocket Casts. We had a little Twitter conversation last night with Pocket Casts and a couple of other guys. So I think we sold quite a few versions of Pocket Cast. So we're supporting our Windows 8 and our Windows Phone 8 developers. I know we're sponsored by Synology, but I've got a new box, and I haven't taken it out of the box. Geez, this is their new DS1515. It is a it's like they're calling it like a value box, even though it's got quite a bit of horsepower in it. It's got a quad-core ARM processor. So I really can't wait to put this under test. Now, when I got this box in, I started thinking to myself, you know what, I really haven't like put these things under extreme scrutiny. So you guys need to help me. Maybe we need to get into the forums. Help me help you. Help me test this box. So I'm thinking maybe I'll throw some movies on it and Plex and just beat the heck out of it. John, how do I test this thing?
I think just load it up and start pounding on it, and we in the past we've done some things like run some the Intel NAS tester suite of tools, and we've done that on the N40 and the N54, and I mean that's always something you could try, and but it's just using it and trying to use it as many ways as you can. I think
trying to break it.
Yeah, that's really that was what I was kind of alluding to. I didn't know if I should say that or not.
We can try to break it. We can put it under test. I must have gotten the retail version, guys, because it's got a cute sticker on it, and I usually don't get the cute little stickers. Quad-core CPU, expandable storage. I think you can like put on 2 more of these things or something. Don't quote me on that. I'll find that out. 4x LAN aggregation. That's what I need, guys. I need a switch that I can aggregate. Let's make this happen. I will buy it. Find me a switch. I need to aggregate. SSD read-write cache, powered by DSM, Disk Station Manager. All right. This is a heavy freaking box. It's a 5-bay, guys. This is no slouch. This is a 5-bay.
It sounds pretty interesting. I mean, the more you talk, the more you get me thinking about these things like Synology and the other NAS devices, and it's you're taking me away from the microservers.
Well, okay. Chat room is saying put an iSCSI LUN on it and run Hyper-V. I can do that.
There you go.
I could probably do that, and then run ATTO against it, right? Because it would show up as a local drive on my 2012 server. I think we could do that. Well, you guys, I'm going to put this to you. We'll somebody start a chat in the forums. How we're going to test this thing, and then we'll test it.
So, ideas for Dave to test the DS1515?
Yes. How to break this thing? Let's break it without like making me spend the next like 12 weeks behind a desk to do so. It's spring and summer, guys. I'm outside. I was outside all day. Oh, now, if this thing doesn't kill me, maybe I should unbox that too. I should unbox that tomorrow. That'll be fun. So thanks for Synology for sending that along. Okay. First, let's dive into HP Microserver. I've got a question for you, for both of you guys. I've seen like hints and releases and stuff for new HP servers. They're calling them Gen 9s. I've seen rack mounts. I've seen towers. I've seen no mention of microserver. Where's my new microserver, fellas?
I have no idea.
I think we still have it. The new microserver is still the Gen 8 microserver that we have. I think if you look back, the N36 and the N40 and the N54, those really were kind of unchanged for quite some time. And I think the target market that this is aimed at doesn't really go for a new flavor of the year or a new flavor every 2 years. So it's, I think they're, Kevin probably knows more than I do.
No, I don't have any insider information on it, and I don't really, one of the things I look for from an indicator or a pointer type of thing is HP did introduce, there's a slightly bigger box called the ML10, and they brought out an ML10 version 2, which they're throwing in the Gen 9 kind of genre, and it's nicely updated. It comes with ILO 4, it comes with B120i, latest processors, up to 32 gig of memory because it has 4 memory slots on it. It's a very nicely done and very affordable box, but it's a bigger box. It's a mid-tower chassis. Part of me always feels like when somebody brings out something like that, that maybe there's a new microserver Gen 9 right behind it. Maybe they're positioning the upper box before the other one comes out. I know there's been a lot of rumors running around, and I think one of the things they're trying to determine is how much more cost competitive do they need to get on the microserver? Do they need to, say, remove some features to make it more cost competitive? I think one of their questions has always been they like the idea of having ILO on it because then all the HP servers have ILO on it, but there's a cost associated with that. So I think it's one of those decision-making factors of do they leave ILO on it, do they pull ILO off? And for our home server community, ILO is probably not quite as important as it is for the business community. But I'll mute again as it's getting.
That's fine, Kev. Just if it gets crazy, mute. We'll come back. I understand you cannot control the people announcing the flights are about to board, all that kind of crap. So Kevin's out at McCarran, out at Interop. Mr. Stutzman, I'm not going to beat you up about it. I kind of knew the answer. I just wanted to make sure that these guys out here listening kind of could figure out that.
Well, I think Kevin, really hit the big point was that they're constantly looking at what the market is asking for and what their target market is asking for, and how does this position them against their competition, and what is emerging in the future in other areas. And that's something that we hear all the time in the boards too, is some people saying, well, I don't care for ILO, and other people saying it's the greatest thing. And
Yeah, a lot.
I know with the N40 and the N54L, I thought ILO was a waste of time, and I wouldn't get the card. And then when I got the ILO in the Gen 8, I thought after I started using it, I thought it was the best thing since sliced bread. And I really found out the value of having it in the Gen 8 when I went to work with the Gen 8 that you had, the rack mount with the beast of the CPU, and that had ILO. And having worked with the microserver with ILO, I was able to move up to I guess you could say, a big boys server, or a real business class heavy duty server. And I knew everything, as far as the stuff that I'd done in the microserver, everything just moved right over. I saw that as really valuable. But, it just depends on your perspective. So it's, what they're going to do the weighing, and they're going to, decide which way they're going to go.
So the N54L that's behind me that I have I've put a couple of loads of server on there, but I have yet to touch since. Do I have this ILO you speak of?
It's set up so that you can buy a card to put into it in the X1 slot in the N54, and then you would have remote capabilities of ILO.
And I assume
with the Gen 8, it was built in, and they got the chip right on the system board.
Okay, so the Gen 8 is built in. The 54L and maybe the N40L, you need a PCIe X1 board.
Right.
And you guys have some real cool ways to obtain one of these boards, and a lot of the times it's eBay, right?
Yeah, and Kevin's the guy that got me really into getting electronic stuff on eBay. I mean, there is a lot of stuff out there, and that's where I got the CPU for my microserver was off of eBay. It was it was a Xeon E3-1265L, but it was surplus. Well, not surplus. It had been harvested out of equipment that had been retired or whatever.
Mhm.
So it was used, but it worked, and I got it at a lot cheaper price than if I'd gotten a brand new one. And it's as happy as a clam in the microserver. But I've gotten a lot of things from eBay.
Now, do not be scared of eBay. I mean, the broadcast server that we're using right now is running off a Core i7 processor that was surplus off of eBay, and I'm not scared of it either.
Oh, I remember you looking for that thing and
Yep.
and finding some good prices. But well, the people that are listening to the audio, they can't see it. But one of the things in the microserver in the ODD bay area on the top, the optical disk drive bay on top, where you could put an optical disk drive, they have a power plug, and it's a like a 4-pin floppy type power plug like this. Those on YouTube or see the video, you can see this, and it's what it is it's called an MX714 plug, and it converts from the 4-pin plug that's in the microserver, and you can get one of these on eBay, and it converts from that to the SATA power port that you could use like in an SSD if you wanted to put an SSD drive up in that area. And so I just actually have a Y connector for so I could run 2 drives off of that. But those are things that you can go to eBay and find. Like in my advanced ILO license, that's where I got that, was off of eBay. And I know Kevin, I don't know when he sleeps, because he must be searching eBay and Woot and all these other places, and he's constantly posting in the forums, not just in Home Server but in Surface Geeks, all these deals that he's found, and he's it's just incredible the stuff that he finds.
Absolutely.
You could spend a fortune following all the stuff that he's posting.
He needs to quit buying his own deals, and he needs to get more sleep at night. John, I'm glad you brought up the ILO license. The ILO is good by itself, but to really get all the features out of it, you want to put the advanced key on it. And that scares most people off, because the key is $375. It's an expensive key. There are excess keys all over eBay for $25 a piece. So if you're planning on getting a Gen 8, go out, follow some of my links. Every one of those I've bought has come sealed, and it has worked. I've never had one not work. So
Yeah.
I feel pretty comfortable on those. And I'm ecstatic. You led with the Pocket Cast things, by far my favorite podcast app, and it comes up in the Windows Store under the parent company's name, Shifty Jelly. But I just downloaded it, bought it, and logged in, and it picked up all my stuff. And it is a great podcast app.
Oh, good. So there, I'm spreading the good word again. Shifty Jelly. I'm telling you, I'm going to link to this second of the podcast. Shifty Jelly, we sold another one.
There you go. Yeah. So between you and Kevin, it's tough keeping money in your bank account.
Yes, and he does put a lot of deals out there, and I try to catch them and retweet them. So if I don't catch them and retweet them, somebody just tweet it out there and just add a Home Server Show on the tweet, and then I'll get it pushed out there. And then that way everybody can, take advantage of whatever Kevin's found. And usually it's really good stuff, and usually I am right there partaking of the deal as well. I have a lot of stuff. I have tons of stuff in my closet that some of the stuff I haven't even unwrapped. I've got smart things and Z-Wave items. You guys can't even see it on the other side of these monitors. They're just lined up. They're just literally lined up. This is next. This is next. This is next. All of my garage doors, all the equipment is sitting there. I just need to go wire it up. And literally, I'm sitting. Some of the stuff is now coffee tables. I have an Antec case sitting down here, And I hope that the DS1515 will not become a coffee table. But speaking of the DS1515, this episode is sponsored by Synology. Hey, Synology has got a brand new product out. Let me show it to you for you guys on YouTube. This is Beyond Cloud. Now, Beyond Cloud's a little different than what you're used to getting with a Synology NAS. Usually you buy a Synology NAS and then you pick out your drives and then you populate it. You bring it home and then you format the drives and then 6 hours later you can play with it. You know, it's kind of stuff like this. Beyond Cloud is ready to go right out of the box. You can use it. You can recommend it for your friends, for your family, for your grandma. Your grandma can run this NAS. It's that easy. It's still Disk Station Manager, but it comes with the drives in there, pre-formatted, pre-set up. It's already set up for Synology Hybrid RAID, SHR, 2 disks. They're mirrored. You got the protection built in. Pre-configured with Seagate NAS class drives. I mean, that's made for 24/7 operation. It's more affordable combined with the cabinet and the drives is more affordable than if you bought a 2-bay cabinet and then bought a couple of Seagate NAS drives or even WD Reds. It's more affordable if you just buy it like this. Beyond Cloud comes in a 1-bay. A 1-bay 2 terabyte. It comes in a 1-bay 3 terabyte, and it comes in a 2-bay 3 terabyte mirror. Synology Hybrid RAID. But you don't even have to remember that. It's Beyond Cloud. Go beyond conventional storage. Be able to play, collaborate, and achieve more with Beyond Cloud. Synology.com. Go out there, and if you for let's see, April and May, Synology is sponsoring the forums and the blog as well. There's a nice banner ad. Everybody go out there, click the banner ad, go read about it. You will not be disappointed with Beyond Cloud. I'm giving you my word on that one. All right, thank you, Synology. Thank you, Shifty Jelly, for Pocket Casts. Okay. You guys are always playing with these keywords. These, what do you call them? Acronyms for things that I never can figure out. It takes me 3 paragraphs to read into your blog post to figure out what you're talking about. What the heck is an SDM?
It's a I'll jump in, and for those on YouTube, this is what it looks like. This is the newest version. It's the Schoondoggy drive mount. Now this is the SDM R2. We had the Schoondoggy drive mount R1, which is this version, and you can see it. They're very similar.
They look the same, John.
Yeah, well, you know, and Kevin made a whole bunch of these things. Had them all made up at once, I think, and then I guess he sold them all out. And so when he went back to make some more, he made some revisions. And you notice that, and I know this is supposed to be audio, but if you're listening to the audio, you really should look at it on the YouTube, or go to the forums and read about it on the blog post. I think there'll be links in the show notes about this where you can just do a search on it. But you go and you take a look at it, and you do see some differences. On the R1 version, there was this bar across the top, and the original purpose of that, I believe, was mostly to be able to give you the option to clamp it to the frame inside the Gen 8. On the R2 version, he took that top bar off, which does make it a lot lighter, and that makes it easier to install. And then he also, probably the big thing that I think is, he added holes pre-drilled, and you can see that everything is countersunk on the back, but the holes are drilled so that you can mount a 60 millimeter blower fan on the side, just like this, and it directs the air down. And it's a nice fan. You know, you can mount other things on the side. What's cool about this is that what came out with it, and you know, if I misspeak or anything, jump in, Kevin. But he came out with what are called SSBs, which are Schoondoggy stacking brackets.
Okay, I gotta stop you right there. What the hell's a Schoondoggy?
Well, that's a good question. It's a Kevin Schoonover. That's what it is. And I always thought when the first time I saw it, and I don't know if I've told Kevin this, but the first time I thought or saw Schoondoggy, I thought of one of those old Annette Funicello, Frankie Avalon beach party or movies, and you had the top dog, and he was the the Schoon dog. I don't know. Kevin will have to explain the derivative of what a Schoondoggy is.
John, actually, that's where it came from. So it was the '60s beach party movies with the Schoondoggy reference.
There you go.
There you have it.
So whenever I hear Schoondoggy, I see Frankie and Annette on their surfboards, or actually they're standing on surfboards with the ocean projected on a screen behind them. But anyway, you catch my drift. And so it always makes me feel like summer fun and everything when I see that. But he has also with these new versions with the R2, he has on the back he has a label and Schoondoggy. And he also has that it's made in Minnesota, which I think is really cool to get that label. But so going back to the SSB, he's got two versions. He has the 9.5 millimeter version and the 7 millimeter version. Now, the 9.5 you need for most of your 2.5 inch hard drives, your laptop drives and such. And what this allows you to do is you take these brackets, and again, I apologize since I know this is video, but audio, but people looking on the video, you see the brackets, you mount them on the side of the drives, and you can stack two of them together. So then what you can do is you could, whereas on the old SDM R1, you could put two drives on it, one drive here and one drive here. With the stacking brackets, you could put stack two drives in one spot and then two drives in the other spot. Now, kind of getting deep into it though, because of clearances on the microserver, you can put the 9.5 or the 7 inch or 7 millimeter stacked drives on this spot. That would be the right of the SDM, but on the right, left side of the SDM, the part that's facing towards you, that I'm pointing at, anyway, it's because it's going to be close to the frame of the microserver. There's some clearance issues, and you can only go with the 7 millimeter. You couldn't put the 9.5 millimeter stacked drives on that side. So, but what's cool about this is where before on the original one you could have a drive here and a drive there, a drive on the left and a drive on the right. You can use the stacking bracket, put two drives on the right, and then on the left side is where you would mount your fan. Kevin has also produced. I don't think he's selling the fans in the Schoondoggy store, but he is selling what he calls a fan mount kit, and so it's got all the screws and everything that you need to put that fan on the side there. Now let's see. Have I discussed everything, Kevin, or do you want to kind of jump in and?
You're doing a great job. I feel like if I jumped in now, I would just mess it up. So.
Well, it's super highly technical and it's very visual. So I'm going to tell everybody listening on the podcast. I mean, you definitely want to go to homeservershow.com. John has got 4 superb articles with tons of descriptions and tons of photos on this. But for the audio version, I mean, we're talking about placing SSDs or even spinning hard drives in a very cramped area of the Gen 8 microserver.
Right, and so this really expands the things that you can do with the microserver quite a bit. And you can, what I've done is, now I think Skoondoggy's even gone, or Kevin has gone further than I have, but I've had like 8 drives operating inside the microserver. 4 2.5-inch drives, actually 2 spinning drives, plus 2 solid-state drives, and then I had 4 drives in the main 4-drive, 3.5-inch drive bay area in the microserver, and I was driving those with a controller card that I put in to the microserver, so I could have 4 drives in the main bay running off the controller card, running in anything, whatever I select, like a RAID 5 or RAID 10, you know, RAID 1, whatever, and then have 4 other drives. And since a lot of times I'm playing with this stuff, a lot of times my OS on 2 SSDs set in a RAID 0. I know that's not kosher, and I know Kevin likes to do it in RAID 1, but I like to have fun with it, so I put the OS in a RAID 0. And then the way the microserver is set up, I know this is getting more technical into it, but with the chipset that it has on the B120i, the first 2 ports are 6 gigabit per second SATA ports. The next 2 ports are 3s. And then there's also a SATA port that's on the system board that's actually the 5th drive in the B120i, and that is also a 3 gigabit per second port. So, you know, using that drive, you could technically, and with an add-on card that could handle 4 more drives, you could get actually 9 drives total inside. Now there's pictures of guys that have gotten more in there by using the USB ports and stuff, and I think Kevin has had 9 or 10 running inside, plus a few attached on the outside. I've had drives attached on the outside too.
So yeah, the last run I did to really load a system down was putting in a HP P222 RAID controller to drive the front bays with 4 drives there. The B120 built into the server, running 4 drives on the SDM mount, 1 SSD running from the optical disk drive port, and then a Blu-ray DVD player running off from, or Blu-ray drive running off from a USB to SATA connection. So that's all inside the box, and then a Sans digital SAS box out the back with 4 more drives on that. So technically on one Gen 8, I guess that would be 13 drives total if I'm counting right. So 4, and 1, and worked perfectly, and everything ran fine with it.
And you know, the kind of stepping back a minute, you know, we've talked about putting controller cards in there. I've talked about controller cards, you know, and Kevin talked about the P222. One thing that we found is that area where the cards go in is kind of off to the side, and it doesn't get as good as cooling as we think it should. I mean, we were seeing some high temperatures on those devices, and that's why we were looking at how to get fans in there. And one of the things that we did early on when we were putting spinning drives on the SDM, the version 1 or revision 1, was to mount these 50 by 50 millimeter blower fans inside the case on the framework. That's if you're looking at the side where the power supply unit is on the microserver, on the right side there's a frame and there's like a ledge, and you could put one of these blower fans above on the top of that ledge and another one below, and you could direct them to the back of the microserver, which would be directing them to the left if you're looking straight at the power supply unit in the microserver. And the top one would serve to kind of cool the drives that are in the or mounted on the SDM-R1, and the bottom one would help cool the P222 or other type of controller card that you have in there. And what we found, though, was, or what I found in the test, and it's in the fourth posting on the blog. It has some testing and wrap up, but we found that by using that 60 millimeter fan and also using that in combination with the blower fan, the 50 by 50 millimeter fan on the right, and having those directed, the one on the right directed towards the P22, the one on the SDM-R2 is blowing down, and it's stirring things up there in the back. I know I'm making all these waving motions and everything, so the people that are listening can just imagine somebody waving their arms in the air if you want. But we found that did help cool the P222 down quite a bit, and so it's, there's a lot of I think it's a great thing that he's got those holes in there for that, and it's something too that later on, if you want to try other things, you can mount off of those holes that he's got in there, using the fan mount kit.
So John, tell him. So John, the modification bug bit John, and I really liked what John came up with, and I think we're going to have to come up with a new product called the SFM, which will be the Stutz mod fan mount. And one of the things we've run into is there's just not enough cooling inside the box. That P222 runs really hot, and John came up with a prototype of an ingenious way to get air directly on it. So, hate to put you on the spot, John, but do you happen to have that with you?
Well, I had done it, and I had sent you some information. The reason I hadn't mentioned it before was I told you I had a prototype. Well, this was I'm holding up again in my right hand the prototype I call the Beta 1, and I was calling it the AFM, the auxiliary fan mount or whatever. But I matched the holes up with the holes that Kevin had for the 60 millimeter fan mounted directly on there, but the Beta 1 didn't quite work. I had some clearance issues and stuff on that left side of the microserver. Looking at the power supply again and the framework on the left, there were some clearance issues and stuff. So I went back to the drawing board, made it a little bit thinner, and the reason I hadn't been saying anything was there were two other Beta units, and they broke. I've been doing my prototyping with some thin acrylic, and the first one kind of broke, and some of the holes broke on it, and then the other one, the bottom just completely broke off when I was cutting that out. So it's the prototyping work. I never thought wood shop would have been so important to me working with computers, but anyway, I do have a Beta 2 unit, and what it has done, what I tried to do, and I apologize, but I'm going to grab another illustration, was I had a Noctua. I don't know if you can see this very well, but it's a 60 millimeter fan. But it's a thicker fan. It was a little bit thicker, so what I needed to do was to mount it, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull this thing out and show you what I'm talking about. And I know you're going to shoot me, Dave, because I'm doing all this visual stuff.
We'll keep explaining for the audio listeners.
So, but the whole idea was I wanted something. Because Kevin had those holes in there, and I think maybe you can see it. I wanted it to hang down.
There you go. Raise it up just a little bit.
Okay, there you go. Hang down so that since the 60 millimeter fan, the blower fan, and it's a good quality fan, and it's very quiet. There's a little vibration. That's why I wasn't worried about supporting it just with the thin acrylic or plexiglass. But it was hanging down in such a way so that it's about halfway located on the SDM-R2. Now the way I did that was, and I got to get something out of a little baggie here, is
it any of this covered in the blog post, or is this in the future?
this is going to have to be in the future because, like I said, I was breaking these units, the beta test ones.
Right.
But what I'm using is going with the fan mount kit. If you, I found if I went with a half-inch nylon spacer, I could space it out and then mount that onto the SDM, and then when the fan was mounted on this beta unit, it would be spaced out enough, and it would be spaced away from the P222, so it wouldn't, I mean, you don't want the fan to be touching that. But like I said, there's some things we need to fix on it. I was going to try to make a couple of units to send up to Kevin to play with, and the additional ones, I've only gotten one to come out right. So what I've done is gotten some thicker plastic, and my first is Lexan or polycarbonate, and I also have some thicker plexiglass. And though eventually I think this might be something, if we keep with the theme of the SDM-R2, we might go to metal, but that might be down the road, or we might just we could stay with plastic, or whatever Kevin wants to do, whatever he thinks.
And just to bring this full circle, this is a mod to go on the mod in order to mount a fan to cool a RAID card.
Right.
You've thrown out some numbers, but we're just trying to cool a RAID card because you're throwing in a RAID card and you're throwing all these drives in there, and we're generating a lot of heat.
Yeah, and this gets me another 4 degrees cooling. But what's cool about it, pun intended, is that if you go to the articles and read some of the testing that I did, on one of them I had taken the 50 millimeter box fan that was on the bottom, and I had pointed it down, and just had basically this 60 millimeter fan that was on the SDM, the SDM-R2, cooling the P222. And one thing that happened, this 50 millimeter really cooled down the chipset. One of the things that I hadn't been happy about was the chipset was getting warm. It's kind of a chipset up near the right front if you're looking at the power supply unit on the system board. Excuse me. And but when I did that, while this kept the P222 cool, and I'm holding up in my left hand again the 60 millimeter fan, it allowed the temperature got above 60 degrees C. So I thought the optimal way to look at it or to work it is to have the 60 millimeter fan pointed down on the SDM-R2 and have the 50 millimeter box fan pointed at the P222. But and now I'm throwing out more stuff here, and people are going to shoot me at the meetup. I'm probably going to hear about this all the time at the meetup. But with this fan pointed directly at the P22 or the P222 heatsink, and this fan, the 50 millimeter fan, box fan pointed also at the heatsink, I got it down to like 54 degrees. If I pointed this down though to cool the chipset, it knocked the chipset temperatures way down, and the temperature of the P222 was only a degree higher, 1 or 2 degrees higher. It would actually, with this pointed down, with the 50 millimeter fan pointed down and the 60 pointed directly at it, the P222 temperature was 55, 56 degrees C. And it would just fluctuate between the two. But the chipset temperature stayed way down. So I thought that was pretty cool, and yeah, pun intended.
It's very cool stuff, and we probably, with some of this stuff, it kind of ends up being like, it's experimentation, but it's experimentation for a reason. Is several of the chips inside of the Gen 8 microserver run too hot. The LAN on motherboard chip runs out of spec, and John was one of the first guys to put a heat sink on that chip to help reduce its temperature. The P222, when you plug it in down there, it runs, if you don't do any cooling on it, it runs about 85 degrees C, and that's well beyond the temperature range for the board. So a lot of these things that John has done with box fans to cool, and what I've done with trying to do some stuff on the SDM is, I would say if I was going to run one of these in production in an environment, I would want to make sure everything in the box was running at its optimum temperature, and some of the things we've come up with help that happen.
Yeah, and we just discovered this stuff by experimentation. I mean, when Kevin came out with the original R1 version of the SDM, and he thought it would be a good idea to put this 50 millimeter box fan pointed at that, because we were both, well, at that time I was putting Velocity Raptors onto the SDM, and those were cranking out some heat right next to the power supply. So the box fan made a lot of sense because it helped keep that cool. And then I think we were thinking, it probably was Kevin that said, what if we just put a second one in there and point it at the P222? And so I thought, that's a good idea too. And we did that, and it was like, wow, this knocks that temperature down, and one thing leads to another. And we've had a lot of people active in the forums coming up with all kinds of ingenious solutions, and I know one person, I wish I could remember his handle. He put, was it like an 80 millimeter fan or something? He hung it off the framework inside. And I'm just doing this by memory. Kevin would know, but that thing was a monster. But he cooled it down quite a bit.
Yeah, absolutely. And John has also done some things to help cool the CPU down. A lot of the guys are putting CPUs in these boxes, Xeons that are probably too power hungry for this design. But there's several things you can do to add some heatsink or add some fans to the passive heatsink to get that down in temperature as well.
Yeah, they're power hungry, but they're a lot of fun.
Right. You two guys, you're thinking inside the box. You're thinking outside the box, but you're inside the box, and it's hot in there.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember, Dave, but it was like, it'll be 3 meetups ago this summer when Kevin brought his original prototype for the SDM.
Yeah. And
it wasn't long after that, then he had the SDM R2 or R1 in production, and that thing, I know he gets queries on the boards from people all over the world. And so I can just imagine, that those SDMs, that are everywhere. Kevin could probably tell you more about that, where they've gone, but those are very popular, and it's a really useful device that you can go and I've said this before, but you can go and put a couple SSDs or a couple of spinners inside. for your OS, and then that leaves the entire four drive bay for your data, and and so it's a lot of people jump on these things. And with the money that people are putting into controller cards, you want to keep those cool. So it's I think a big help.
Wow, my head is spinning. I mean, literally, my head is spinning. This is crazy. I don't have a Gen 8. I always feel like I'm missing something, but I I'm happy with my home build server 2012, and I've got my N54L sitting back here that's not doing a thing. But what I want to do with it is someday I want to run a router project on it, maybe Sophos or maybe do an untangle bridge with another router. And so I keep saving it. I'm not selling it, but I've got all kinds of little mods in it, not like cooling mods, but hard drive things and cabling and all kinds of stuff. So
Well, you got that two drive bay in the top.
yeah, it's got the little two bay little doohickey on the top. So doohickey, that's a
Yeah.
technical term.
Yeah, but I remember you had that at the last couple of meetups, I think, and I mean that was cool. A lot of people were taking that thing apart and looking it over,
Yeah, I don't
getting
even know if it
ideas and
starts
stuff.
up anymore, honestly. We had it apart quite a few times. Hey, speaking of meetup, I'm going to bring this N54L if I haven't sold the thing by then. I will bring that to the meetup, and it'd be kind of cool if we could get Sophos or something on it. A lot of guys have said for meetup they would like a different type of meetup where it's less NAS heavy and more creative. Where we tried to do this last year. We had that HP DL 320. Is it that rack
Yeah,
server?
yeah.
We splayed that thing open in the back and said, put something on it, guys, go. And I know we had some trouble getting it going and stuff like that, but I think we might really try to do a more creative meetup and try to get some teams together and throw some hardware at you guys and have you create something, and then I don't know, we can maybe present our projects at the end or something. We'll do something like that.
Yeah, I think some of the things we tried to do last time that I think we'll want to do this time is um, for the guys who haven't set up ILO, we can walk them through that. For like the Dell and the Lenovo boxes that have the ATM remote access, we could do something with that. It'd be fun to just walk somebody through configuring Sophos or pfSense or Untangle, and those are things we can kind of do over and over again. So that all works out nicely.
Yeah, I think we can definitely do a little bit of do something different this year at Meetup. We'll try to be different, not quite on the same rails that we've always been at, that we've always done. If Meetup is a term that has caught you off guard listening on this podcast, we have a geek gathering every September usually. This year it is September the 12th. It will be in Fishers, Indiana. There is a post in the forums, homeservershow.com/forums for you YouTubers and live listeners. Check out that post. It's got all the details that you need. Hotel registrations are open, and I've got a great room rate. And I know, John, I think it was you posted something in the forum saying maybe you had some trouble with it. I haven't reposted, but whatever it is has been corrected. There should be room rates, really good room rates for the meetup. And I don't have registration open yet, but go ahead, book your flights, book your hotel. It's on, and I will get registration going. Registration is going to be $25 per head, and that's going to get you a breakfast and a lunch, and that helps pay for all of the rooms. We've got a meeting room from Friday 6 p.m. until Saturday 6 p.m. So we're gonna have a real good time. This will be, is this 5th annual?
Yeah, I'm afraid so. This will be the fifth one for me. I'm hoping I get to meet this Jim Collison guy.
I think he's going to be there.
Me too.
Okay,
Me too.
okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really do. I think Jim will be there. I know he's not here tonight, but we gave him the night off.
So John asked the question, and I brought up PayPal here. I have shipped SDM brackets to Australia, Canada, France, Germany, Hong Kong, Hungary, Japan, the Netherlands, South Korea, Sweden, Switzerland, Taiwan, United Kingdom, and the United States.
Wow. That's a pretty big list of countries. That's impressive. That's really impressive. All right, Schoondoggy, I have a Gen 8 microserver. I want one of these. Where do I go?
There we go.
Well,
You can go to the Schoondoggy store, hit the blog post on the blog end of, or the podcast end of Home Server Show's website. So that's a couple of different ways to take you there. It's a PayPal ordering system, and I do ship worldwide. I will try to always do my best to get the worldwide shipping price down. It's a bit pricey, but I have to make sure I cover my expenses. And if anybody has any questions about the brackets, I have a separate email address for that, schoondoggy@outlook.com, and hit me up there. I'm quick to answer and take care of any questions you have around brackets and stuff. And if you are an international customer and you are planning a trip to the United States, I've had very good luck shipping brackets to hotels and having you pick them up there, and that seems to work out very well also.
Interesting. So you don't ship to their home? You just ship to a hotel?
Yeah, so I can ship it to their home, but worldwide shipping is about $23. Shipping in the U.S. is $5.25. So if they're going to be visiting the U.S., we've done it about 5 times now where we've coordinated shipping it to the hotel they're going to be at. Saves them a bunch of money, makes it easy for me as well.
Wow. Okay.
Well, and if they're going to be at the meetup and they let you know ahead of time, and you could just hand deliver it there.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so the store, actually you can go to homeservershow.com/schoon. So that's SCHOON, and that will get you to the Schoondoggy Drive bracket store where you can order that. Also, there'll be a link in the show notes for this post. And if you just forget all of that, there's a link in the forums. There's a little side box in the home server. I'm slurring my speech. It's getting late. Homeservershow.com/forums. There's a little box on the side that says HSS Gen 8 Store. Click here to view. Pops up a new window, and you're right there in the bracket store. Actually, it doesn't pop up a new window. It's supposed to. That's my HTML coding for you there. What else, John?
In the reference for each of the articles that is posted in your blog, there's also a link to the Schoondoggy store. So people shouldn't have any trouble finding it.
There's no shortage of linkage to the Schoondoggy store.
Or they can just come in the forums and ask. And we'll show them where it is.
Don't be afraid to do that. Actually, the forums is growing by leaps and bounds. We are getting close to 100,000 posts, and the thing here that I find that is amazing is we have roughly like 5,700 members. So 5,700 members have made almost 100,000 posts. Now you go to some other boards, and you'll find 100,000 posts by a membership that is just enormous. I mean, just an enormous sized membership. And that tells me the value of homeservershow.com. When someone logs in, they register, they're active, they they contribute, and that's kind of what sets it apart as a community of geeks and modders and guys out there asking and answering questions compared to some other boards out there. So I mean, we say it all the time, it's community, but the stats kind of back it up, honestly.
Absolutely, and I really would say our forum is a real positive environment. I won't call out different sites, but there are some sites that are a little grumpy when you first log on, and it's a little bit of an old boys network. And I think our site is very accommodating and very friendly and open. I do. I feel like I have to give a shout out to a fair, kind of a newer member, but a gentleman whose handle is Got No Time has been doing a stellar job. A lot of good posting around HP, a lot of good posting in general, and it really, it's everybody jumping in like that and helping on stuff really brings the forum together. And I don't think there's any surprise that I'm selling brackets around the world, because the Home Server Show forum has members from all over the world. People, and I always think it's a real pat on the back when I'm on somebody else's website, like VMware's website, and there's some reference to Home Server Show figuring something out around VMware, or HP's website, their own forums, and people are posting stuff back to, well, hey, the guys at Home Server figured this out, and here it is. Yeah. So I think that's a big pat on the back to everybody who participates in our group.
Yeah, absolutely. Sometimes I do link reports, and I'll see where the inbound traffic is from. They're hard links, that are tied to your site, and it's like, wow, we have a lot of inbound links, and our SEO is very good at HomeServerShow.com, especially for microservers, mostly in part to you guys, but that is really cool stuff. And the forums are active right now. You can go out there, jump into the forums. It's real easy to join, and there's a lot of folks out there discussing right now who's going to be the 100,000th. I don't know, but it's going to be fun. Guys, I'm going to pull a plug on this one. This one may be a little better on video. If you've listened on audio, you may want to check out youtube.com/homeservershow. You can get the YouTube video. And I apologize for the audio if it was kind of hard to follow, but the coolest thing is you don't have to be confused. There are blog posts by John. There are posts by Kevin out there on the blog and on the forums, and especially on the blog about the SDM revision 2. Tons of photos, tons of cool things to look at, and really neat stuff, and a lot of work has been done to test, and these two guys have put just just unbelievable amount of man hours behind this, and especially for the cost of the bracket alone, it's very reasonable. And if you have a Gen 8 server, you probably should pick one of these things up, and you probably should register for Meetup. I think that Meetup 2015 is going to be a good time. I've already got ideas. I've already had donations, guys. PayPal donations have already been flooding in for to make sure that Meetup 2015 is a good time. And I've got some ideas for that money that came in. Rather large donation. I really appreciate that. I've got gear that maybe we shouldn't tell Synology. I know they're probably listening. Shysters. They're sponsoring this episode. Maybe we shouldn't tell them. That we'll just give away these boxes that they've sent me for review. We'll save those for Meetup, and we'll give those away. That's a Beyond Cloud box, and there's a DS1515. Now, I'm going to say, if I like the 1515, it may just be lost in shipping, going back to Synology, guys. Like, I don't know, fellas. I shipped that back. This reviewer is honest. I shipped it back. You just didn't get it. No,
sounds good to me.
We'll probably give it away. Maybe. I might like it. I don't know. Kevin, thanks for joining us via airport in Las Vegas. I know it's
Thanks.
what you got, about
Thanks for
3
having me.
hours? 3 hours back to Minnesota?
Actually, I'm on my way to Denver. I got some meetings in Denver tomorrow, so gonna make the hop to Denver and then home from Denver to Minnesota tomorrow night.
Okay, there you go. Well, HP's got some headquarters over there somewhere. You could just drive by and slap them.
Oh yeah, we'll work on that.
Okay, all right. All right, Kevin, Mr. Stutzman.
Thanks a lot. Thanks for having me on, and thanks to Kevin for putting all the work to design this thing. It's a nice piece of engineering there.
Yeah, it's a great device. Thanks, guys. I'm your host, David McCabe. We'll see you here next week. See you in the forums. All right, YouTubers. That's the audio version. Thanks, fellas. Sorry, I had to itch my ear.
That's all right. Thanks for having us on.
Well, I hope I made sense what I was talking about.
You'd never know. Folks that are familiar with it will be okay with it. There might be a little confusion. We may lose a couple of listeners on it, but
No, but I always see, John, you do a great job, and I think it drives, if anything, we referenced enough that it will drive people back to the posts you've got up on the website. I think people tend to default back to those and use those from an informative.
Yeah, and I'm going to have definitely have these 4 beta versions, and probably I'm afraid there's going to be many more at the meetup, so that people can see the whole progression of disasters and everything. But eventually, I hope to get one that I can send to Kevin so that he can play with, and see where we can go from there. I'm still, well, I got to try different plastics and stuff. This polycarbonate stuff might work pretty well. It's Lexan, so that might work better.
Lexan's very good for that kind of thing. It's kind of easy to work with, and it's very strong.
it won't crack as easy like those corners cracked, will it?
It tends not to.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. I tried different speeds with my drill. I was just using a cordless drill to drill the holes, and to make the circular hole, I was actually using one of those drills that you drill out for like a door. So it was like a 54 millimeter hole,
Right.
which was close enough for this 60 millimeter fan. Close enough to see if it works. And but the fan is that I was using is a nice fan. It doesn't vibrate, so there's no. The other thing too is how to mount the screws. Whether or not I should be using locking washers or because I would hate for something to come unscrewed and have some nuts falling down onto the system board. That could be a bad thing. But
No, we'll figure out a couple of things, and I kind of, when you're ready, let me see it. I've kind of got a couple ideas about how to maybe do this with the same gauge of steel that I made the stacking brackets out of, and hopefully that would be rigid enough and yet not add too much weight to the project. So we'll see.
yeah, the half-inch nylon washers worked real well. One of the things I was thinking of too was maybe, or the nylon spacers, was maybe putting washers, looking at it forwards, putting washers, maybe adding washers on the left and without washers on the right, so that it's kind of tilted a little bit, so that maybe the fan is blowing air it's mostly directly onto the P222, but it's also kind of pushing it to the side. I don't know if that would make any difference or not, but it might be something once I have a little bit more sturdy mount to play with.
Well, when I get home, I'll shoot you. So as you were working on a fan bracket there, I had just kind of drawn up an idea for, so I like the Velcro you use on the blowers to make it easy to move them around. But
Oh yeah.
I think I've come up with a way to make a metal bracket that would allow you to adjust the angle on those blowers as well. So when I get back home, I'll shoot you a copy of the drawing I've done of those, and
Cool.
we'll make a couple prototypes of those to see if that would work as well. So the only
Yeah.
bad thing is when they come with the Gen 9, they better not change too much, because otherwise all my designs are going to go down the
That's
tube.
right. Yeah, and who knows if they might not incorporate some of your design in there.
Well,
Well, I would certainly hope that, that call we had with them, that they took our heat numbers to heart. I there's that's part of the magic of designing these little servers, whether it's a blade server or a rack mount or a mid tower. You got heat. You got to figure out a way to move air. There's on one hand, I'd say there's no magic. It's air movement, but sometimes that is the magic, is getting the air movement going.
but I had when I first mounted it, and just to make sure that the fans were turning and everything, I ran it with the cover off, and before the P222 would just get awfully hot. When you had the cover off, it was 54 degrees with the cover off. I mean, it was. So I was impressed. I was impressed.
So Dave, I got to tell you, there are still a handful of apps, but with the guys at Shifty Jelly coming with Pocket Cast for Windows Phone, there's not. I'll have to go through the audit again to see. About the only thing I'm missing is one from my bank, the small credit union I use, and there's one or two others, but there's almost no app gap anymore.
Yeah, it's they've lost a couple of apps. They lost the American Airlines app, they lost the Wells Fargo app. Those were some big losses there. But the announcements today from Build was Android app creators can easily port their apps over to Windows Phone in Windows 10. So it's there. It will be there for them if they want to partake. Now, I don't know how easy, how difficult that will be, but there's some promise there. So you never know. You never know. I can't wait to run Windows 10. Now I just need a big 5.5-inch phone so I can get rid of my little bitty icon. I still like my icon.
Well, and the 1520's been doing well for me. It is a bit big, but once you get used to two-handing a phone, it's a very nice phone.
Mm-hmm. And I love the camera on this thing, and I'm all about camera. You guys, everybody knows that follows me. I love the camera. I love the integration with OneDrive. I love the integration with OneNote. My Evernote experience is a little lackluster on Windows Phone. I don't like the Evernote experience. For reading, it is just fine. For creating, it's okay. For editing, it's horrible. So
I would agree.
I've found a home on Aries for Twitter. The big Twitter client seems to be Tweetium. Everybody loves Tweetium. I tried it and I liked it, but I found this Aries, Aeries, it's a great app. It is really a great Twitter app, and it reduces some of my taps, because when I see a tweet and there's a link in that tweet, I want to tap that link and I want to go straight to a browser. Bam! I don't want any other taps and things like that. It drives me nuts. I do have to keep the Twitter the default Twitter client. You can see it by my thumb right here. That's the Twitter app. I have to keep that on there because I frequently send messages, DMs, photographs with DMs. I mean, I did it with John. John, I did it with you recently during a conversation about you purchasing something. I sent you something which enabled you to do so, but I wanted to do
Yeah.
that privately. I did it over Twitter. Schoon, we talked about the same thing. You said you were going to wait and not do that, but that's how I sent it, was via DM. That was prior to Mr. Stutzman getting on Messenger, Facebook Messenger, which we strong-armed him.
You guys shamed me into it.
I tell you, I use Facebook Messenger like there's no tomorrow.
You know, I used to have just an old flip phone that didn't have internet or anything, and then 2 meetups ago at the Waffle House, you were demonstrating your Windows phone, and then a few months later, I'm getting one of these things. You know, it's this will be 2 years old. It'll be off contract this October, so.
It's probably perfect time, John, if you want to jump on like some brand new Windows 10 hardware. Hopefully, it'll be there.
Yeah. So this is your fault and Tim Black's fault and a few other guys from the meetup. Oh, and Kevin, because Kevin was using his for.
That's a 1020, right? You bought the.
Yeah, I got the 1020.
The big camera.
Yeah, and that's what I wanted was the camera, because my grandson was just newborn then, so I wanted to take lots, and I have been, lots of pictures and lots of video, and the video quality is fantastic. It's I love it.
And I passed 2 Windows phones to Mr. Schoonover. It was an AT&T. Was it a 925?
Yeah, AT&T 925. I used that for a long time, and then my wife still uses the 928.
I loved that phone.
I
loved that phone.
What's funny about when you mention the cameras on those phones, she's the manager for my daughter's soccer team, and she had to take pictures of each of the girls for their little ID cards, and she shot pictures of them at practice the other night, and one of the moms was sitting by her, and of course my wife was walking through them and zooming in, and the iPhone and Android moms nearby couldn't understand how she was zooming in on a picture that was already taken, and that it was still that clear, and being able to crop, and so just incredible cameras on those phones.
Oh yeah.
Now I agree. The 928 has a phenomenal camera, and I still to this day will look through photographs of my children in that era. When I held that 928, and I'm like, wow, that camera honestly, I'm thankful that I carried it during those years, because I have really good pictures of those kids with that phone. This is a phone we're talking about.
Well, and it's cool how everything goes up to SkyDrive or OneDrive, and all my wife's photos go up to OneDrive. My photos go up. Pictures from that I've taken with my tablets, it goes up to OneDrive, and it kind of confused me for a while, because I was looking at OneDrive, and I was looking at the camera roll, and I was seeing these pictures, and I was, well, how did those get there? And then I realized the tablet was pushing its pictures up there too, so it is pretty cool.
Yeah, I have. Oh, my OneDrive is a mess. I have camera rolls from so many phones that are up there. From my LG, my Android phones, my tablets. Everybody's got this little spot in OneDrive, and I've started transferring old photos up there because I have terabytes of storage, just waiting to be used. So I like OneDrive. Actually, I like SkyDrive, but we'll call it OneDrive. For you on audio, I'm wearing my old SkyDrive shirt.
Yeah, well, seeing your T-shirt got me confused, and that's why I said SkyDrive instead of OneDrive. And
That's awesome. That's awesome.
So you got some late traveling ahead of you, Kevin.
He does. It's 10 o'clock Eastern, and I'm tired.
So, but it's only 7 o'clock here, so I've got time yet. But I should probably sign off and go find my gate.
All right, Kev. Well, thanks for coming on. I've got an idea for a show. It's written in my notes, and let me go to schedule. I wrote down, quote, navigating the used server market on eBay. I wrote this in my notes weeks ago, and then lo and behold, Mr. Stutzman brings up the whole eBay thing tonight. So that's going to go really well, kind of a segue. I think I was looking through eBay servers. I was finding such nice gear. We're talking $50 rack mount servers from Dell. $50. Some of them had 16 gigs of RAM, dual Xeon processors for $50.
Yeah, no, there's some outrageous deals from that point of view. The other thing that I hit on in that price range is the HP Pizza Box. You can get my favorite is the DC 5850. It's an AMD based. You can find them with decent processors. You usually pay $50 for them, and because they will support high density memory, which most of the other boards won't, you can get 16 gig of memory for $50. So if you do it right, for $100, you can end up with a quad core processor, 16 gig of memory pizza box that would make a dandy little server. That'd be way overkill for Sophos or something like that. But I've thrown Hyper-V on those boxes. You can do, and as you know and I know, they make a killer Minecraft server.
That's right. That's right. DC 5850. I'm going to have to look that up.
Comes in a mid-tower or a pizza box kind of design. So
rack on there and see what comes up.
And with that, I will let you go, gentlemen, and have a good evening.
Thanks, Kevin.
Yep.
Travel well.
Thanks, Kevin.
He's probably going to miss his flight. Let's start talking eBay. Live viewers, where is Yeti Tech? We're going to have to get Yeti Tech. He has some good ideas for testing this thing. Awesome. Okay, YouTubers, we're going to sign off the live video. Thank you very much for hanging out with us. Thank you very much for watching. Don't forget to download the audio. I've actually got some really nice podcasts. This last 3 shows. I mean, we're talking HP Mini. We're talking Azure. That's a great show that we did last week. So go download those audio and click that. Click that Beyond Cloud link. Make Synology happy.
And get them on your podcast app so that you can listen to those things.
Absolutely. All right, YouTubers, signing off.